I have the honor to be proxy for Trustee Corrigan today. So this is my first meeting. I get to kind of lead. So please excuse any mistakes I make today. But we have actually, for the start of the Finance and Human Resource Committee today, a presentation, which we will start with from IKM Architecture, Daniel Polak.
Thanks. I'll just introduce Dan and his team, for our friends from IKM Architecture. This is the LSW Public Restrooms Renovation Project. It started as a refresh of the lower level patron restrooms as an infrastructure project, which are probably the hardest used toilet facilities in our entire system. They were long overdue for renovation. In the course of the design process, actually, I think we'll introduce some friends later. We had the grant that the board approved from Kai Hagadides for the universal changing table. Conversation with the director, he'd always felt like the lack of a public restroom on LSW's first floor was a deficiency in the original design of the Stokes Wing. So we kind of expanded the scope of the project to include new public restrooms on the first floor, incorporating the universal changing table. Our friend Tanak took that in stride, so Dan will introduce the team and how the project has taken shape.
Thank you, John. So we have Sarah Bala. She's with IKM. She's our project architect. We have Adnan. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Peter from Algebra. I'm a mechanical engineer.
And Adnan is from Algebra as well. Electrical engineer. Thank you. So thank you, John, for the introduction. We love these kind of projects. You know, toilet room projects may not sound that fascinating, but you know, John said most used restroom in the system. It might be the most used public restroom in all of Cleveland, right? So we understand the importance of that and providing access to that. Next slide. So we're just going to go through a few things today. We have our floor plans. We have a couple, you know, kind of quick renderings and images, and then we'll walk through budget and schedule very quickly. And then, of course, any questions after are welcome. So on the left-hand side, this should look fairly familiar if you go down to your current bathrooms. It's not exactly a one-for-one replacement, but we're looking to keep the same fixtures, have accessible stalls, durable finishes, kind of just an upgrade and refresh of that toilet room. That is what started the project. We also have some concepts for some graphics to kind of liven up that space down there. We know it can feel a little awkward going down there when there's no one down there, so we've worked with Kath and the team here to discuss some opportunities for graphics and livening up that space. On the right-hand side is that first floor area where there will be 3 new toilet rooms. Sorry for the graphics. I know that's hard to see. The 3 accessible restrooms. The one on the far right with that bigger rectangle in it, that is our accessible changing table. That will be new to the system and provide, you know, we talk about accessibility oftentimes as wheelchairs. It's much more than that. This will provide new clients to serve and feel comfortable within the space. Next slide. So just the existing images on where this is going. The one on the left is where those 3 restrooms will go. We started with 1 restroom, we went to 2, and then we said we can make 3 work. we can get that in the space. If we're going to run plumbing, let's do this right. And that's what's so great about these projects. I think you guys always try to do what's right, and we really support that. And then on the right, the image happened to show that restroom closed, and that is what we're updating. You'll notice the door to that space, and we're actually going to remove the doors to the restroom and make them a little more open on that lower level. You will not see anything in there. You will not see any toilet, any functions going on. We do believe that will increase kind of safety and security, knowing what's going on down there and not having people kind of behind closed doors, especially when not many people are down there. Next slide. This is just a little image looking back into in that first floor. On the right is kind of where that book drop is. So if you're looking at that's book drop. There's a kitchenette we're updating on the right, some vending, and then the 3 doors to the restrooms there. And then behind that space, not in the picture, but we're going to have some new lighting for kind of a little conference work area, and some TV possibilities and monitor possibilities over there. We know there's kind of some dead zones with the way those curves work in the building, so trying to liven up that space, make it a little brighter, make it a little more welcoming for everybody. Next slide. So this is, of course, our maybe most important piece. This is just an image of that accessible changing table. and what will be provided within that space. So, and then this is the start of our kind of graphic conversations for how to liven up that space. So it's kind of a very wide-angled view, but that's looking at the auditorium and the restrooms on the right. Those blue kind of swaths would be where there are some new images. And we could probably go to the next slide. Images of people, images of Cleveland, images of the city. We're kind of finalizing, kind of work through those. Those are all part of the budget right now as graphics, just the images aren't there yet. But kind of what we're looking at. Again, we want people to feel welcome down there, feel a little more alive down there, and open that space up. Next slide. So our construction estimate for the entire project is just over $700,000. We did have a third-party consultant do the estimate for that. And then we have some dates. So this is out to bid. Our bid opening will be in early March, and our goal for completion is end of June. There may be a little phasing in there. We haven't really worked through that 100%. And we're going to look for a little bit of input from the contractor doing it to make sure they're comfortable. We probably want to keep potentially opening that first floor, the new bathrooms first, and then doing the lower level. So there's always toilet rooms available. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much the presentation. So if you have any questions, great.
Thank you. I like the graphic incorporation. I think it's going to be very fitting with all the other aspects of what the library, tries to invoke as we have like all of our other newly constructed libraries. So it's going to be fun to see it in the end.
Yeah. Mr. Lang, do you want to speak to the scheduling of how this flight will work?
Yeah, like Dan said, the goal would be, and we will be speaking with the contractor who we bring on to help with the phasing, but the goal is build the first floor of the new restrooms first, and then open those, and then we'll close the lower level to do the renovations. So they'll always, between the lower level and the first floor, there'll be patron access. Uninterrupted. And I was remiss not to introduce Kath. I know many of you know her already. Kath Sonhalter from the capital projects team. She's kind of our in-house design lead with her architectural background. So really appreciate her leadership with Dan and Dan's team on the project.
Great. And I know Ashley has someone to introduce.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Joining me today, I have Elizabeth Day, Director of Communications from the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities. I've asked her to join us today just to have a preview of what is taking place and also to share a little bit about the grant and how important it is that we collaborate on this project. So, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Ashley. Ashley's awesome. She used to work with me at the board. So it's nice to get to work with her on this project. Like Ashley said, my name's Elizabeth Day. I'm the Director of Communications for the Board of DD. I'm here on behalf of our CEO, Amber Gibbs, who couldn't be with us today. We support 15,000 people with developmental disabilities in the community to live, learn, work, and play. And that means partnering with organizations like Cleveland Public Library on making sure that places and spaces and programming are accessible for people of all abilities. And so we're really excited about this partnership with the Universal Changing Table. And I'm sure that you all know this as you've gone through the process, but the Universal Changing Table really is a game changer for people with disabilities and complex medical needs. It allows them to access places in the community that they probably go otherwise. Many people, we hear a lot as we've made these investments in the community that they make choices about where they go based on whether or not they have access to a changing table. So investing here made a lot of sense. You're right in the heart of downtown.
I wonder how they know it's available.
Well, we promote them, and there is a.
Do they know the library has it?
Well, so we'll all promote it, but also there is a website and an organization called Changing Spaces Ohio that lists all of the universal changing tables in the state.
Really?
And so as we've been making investments in the community, we've been updating that website. So now at the end of last year, I believe there were 15 across Cuyahoga County, and we continue to add more. So, it helps people access places they might not go otherwise. It helps caregivers a lot. who would either have to, lift the person they're caring for or change them on the floor in the back of a car or on some other undignified way. So we're really excited about this. It really makes a difference. We've had a long partnership with the library on inclusive programming. We're proud to continue the partnership with your physical spaces and the Universal Changing Table. And we just look forward to, many more years of continued collaboration.
I'm just really proud we're doing this investment now ahead of also 2030.
Yes.
So if you want to plug the
Yes.
Special Olympics and I'm sure our own team will figure out how best we can interact
Yes.
during those festivities.
Yes, absolutely. And we're working on other strategic places in downtown as well and throughout the county. We're putting some at the airport because people, when they come, they've got to be able to, use a restroom in a dignified way. We're working with the convention center. We're working with the stadiums. So we are really making strategic investments and looking to partner, not just because of the Olympics, but because it's the right thing to do. But I think the Olympics, the Special Olympics are giving partners an opportunity to think differently about their spaces.
For sure.
Are we the first library?
I don't know
In
the answer
Cuyahoga
to that.
County?
Potentially. I don't know the answer to that.
Yes.
I can find out.
I always believe we're the first, even if we are.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I can't say for sure.
Yeah.
This is exciting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank you
so
to our
much.
partners for helping make it happen.
So now that concludes the presentation, and we will move to the Finance Committee exhibits and reports. Have Exhibit 1, resolution to accept gifts for the month of January, whereas the board receives gifts of money, library service materials, technology resources, and miscellaneous non-monetary gifts from generous citizens from time to time, and whereas attached to this resolution is the gift report itemizing the gifts received by the library for the month of January of 2026. Now therefore be it resolved that the gifts described in the gift report for January of 2026 be accepted upon the conditions connected with said gifts in accordance with section 3375.40K of the Ohio Revised Code. So moved.
Second.
Ms. Rashid,
Oh, wait. I don't, I'm just reading as a proxy. Since I'm not on the finance committee.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Butts,
Yes.
and Ms. Shakiri.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we have Exhibit 2, resolution to accept grant funds from the Child Care Resource Center of Cuyahoga County Incorporated, DBA, starting point for MyCom Out of School Time Transitions Program. Whereas Cleveland Public Library and the Child Care Resource Center of Cuyahoga County, Inc., DBA Starting Point, have partnered to provide out-of-school time transition services, and be it resolved that the Board of the Trustees of the Cleveland Public Library, pursuant to the authority granted under RC Section 3375.40K, formally accepts this grant from the Child Care Resource Center of Cuyahoga County, DBA Starting Point, in the amount of $47,986, and be it further resolved that the executive director, CEO, or his designee is authorized to enter in and execute such agreements or instruments as may be necessary or appropriate to effectuate the terms of this resolution, which agreements and instruments shall be subject to approval by the library's chief legal officer. I'd like to hear about this
Yes.
grant.
Tracy Martin.
Hi, everyone. Good
Hi,
afternoon.
Tracy. Hi.
Jacqueline Lamb will be at the official meeting on Thursday, and she can talk more about the programs that we're going to do. But we've received funding from Starting Point for at least like 14 or 15 years, and they specialize in youth programming, youth out-of-school time programming. This is the grant that allowed us to start our Young Scholars Academy program, which is we've had that program for a long time. It's an instrumental, like, early literacy program that takes kids who aren't in a formal preschool setting and gets them ready for kindergarten. So that's a big part of what this grant will support, is the continuation of that program. And then this year, they're also expanding, Jacqueline is into middle school and high school transition programming as well, to help focus on, when a kid's going into high school for the first time or when they're going out of high school for the first time. So this money helps support those kind of programs.
The only
Yeah.
question I have is, and if you don't know, I can see with Jacqueline, is this about the same amount we get approved for this?
It is less.
Less.
Starting Point receives funding from Cuyahoga County and they got less, and so we got less.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Thanks,
moved.
Tracy.
Second.
Mr. Parker? Ms. Butts?
Yes.
And Ms. Shakira?
Yes.
Okay. We have Exhibit 3, Resolution to Advance Cash from the General Fund to the MyCom Fund. Whereas Ohio Revised Code, Section 5705.14 provides for the transfer and advance of funds from the general fund to other funds, and whereas a cash advance from the library's general fund to the MyCom Fund is a desirable method of resolving cash flow problems without the necessity of incurring additional interest expense for short-term loans and to provide the necessary seeds for grants that are allocated on a reimbursement basis. And now therefore be it resolved upon adoption of the resolution to accept grant funds from the Child Care Resource Center of Cuyahoga County, Inc., DBA Starting Point. This board authorizes that the general fund advance cash in the amount of $47,986 to the MyCom Fund for the same purposes for which the funds were established and for which repayment is an equal amount is made within a year or until all requests for reimbursement have been received. So moved.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Butts?
Yes.
Ms. Shakira?
Yes.
We have Exhibit 4, Resolution to amend Walz Branch project budget. Whereas on March 18th, 2025, the Board of Library Trustees approved a budget for the Walz Branch project as shown in Exhibit A to this resolution. And on September 18th, 2025, the board authorized the Chief Operating Officer to reallocate funds amongst each of the various budget line items shown in Exhibit A, provided such reallocations do not increase the overall project budget. And whereas a portion of these increased costs will be shared with the library's partners on the Point Development Project, West 80 Senior Limited Partnership, the Chief Operating Officer recommends that this board amend the Walz Branch project budget by increasing the owner's contingency fund by $500,000, thereby increasing the overall project budget to, I'm so bad with numbers, so I apologize. $12,555,239.58 as shown in Exhibit A to this resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of the Library Trustees hereby approves the amended project budget for the new Walz Branch as shown in Exhibit A to this resolution, which expenditures shall be charged to the capital project funds, including the Building and Repair Fund 401, the Construction Tax Exempt Fund 402, and or the Construction Taxable Fund 403, and therefore be it further resolved that the Board of Library Trustees authorizes the Chief Operating Officer to reallocate funds amongst each of the budget categories set forth in Exhibit A, provided such reallocations do not increase the overall project budget. That was a lot.
Tell us about these geotechnical conditions.
Yeah, there's a lot. So before I do that, I just want to briefly talk about the way the project is structured. So there are 2 contracts, 3 scopes of work on the project. It's very similar to MLK, if you keep that in your memory, in the sense that Karam side holds their project costs. We hold the library project costs, and then there's a shared cost. For the MLK project, the developer handled the shared contract. In this case, the library holds it. So all the site work, the foundation work, deep and shallow foundations, the columns, structure, that's all by the library with shared cost participation by Karam. So that's just setting the groundwork, so to speak. What has occurred since we broke ground on the project late last summer was a series of unforeseen site conditions, some of which are described in
You're on such a steep hill.
It is. So we knew between originally bidding the project in 2022 and starting work in 2025 that the design condition for underpinning the existing structures on the St. Augustine east side of the site was not going to be sufficient. So we knew we were going to have to install some sheet piling. We put some allowances into the contract to anticipate that, but we didn't anticipate quite how expensive they were going to be. Similarly, we did 2 rounds of geotechnical borings to understand the soil conditions on the site. We used that to set up allowances for having to haul and fill soil, but again, that underestimated quite how many unsuitable soils we were going to find. The design documents we presented to Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District were not approved. They mandated larger pipe and rerouting of the pipe, which went all the way through the site. That was a fairly significant cost. Let's see. Then we've experienced obviously the worst January winter conditions we've had in about the last 30 years or so. That's required an expensive ground thaw system just to get the ground warm enough that we could place concrete. All of these had associated delays in general overhead conditions. So the project ran out of money pretty quick. And this is more than the tip of the iceberg, but to be honest, this is probably not the whole iceberg. This would be enough money to keep the project flowing, keep the cash flow going on the project, negotiates with our partners on the shared cost arrangements and with our contractors on the exact scope of the work. We are seeking to reduce costs and find creative ways to approach the problems as they arise. But yeah, that's what we're asking for now is $500,000 to reimburse the contingency funds so that the project can keep moving forward.
It's tough, John.
John, I have a question in regarding all the sewer and stuff that, is the city taking on your responsibility for that? And the only reason I'm saying that is I do live nearby, as we all do. There's a water main break every other day on those streets. So it's not, or we just eat the whole cost to fix.
We're eating the whole cost of the excavation, making the connections, and then essentially running the lines, whether to the Karam Apartments or whether to the library. It would be great if the city would take the opportunity of when we're paying for our hook-ins to upgrade their in-the-ground infrastructure. We haven't really been successful on past projects getting to do that. Woodland comes to mind. So if the city were to upgrade their main trunk, which is under Detroit Road,
Right.
they would pay for that. But the connection to the main trunk and all the infrastructure between the main trunk and the building is borne by the project.
Yeah,
Are you
I'm sort
sorry?
of waiting until the thaw. I mean, that would have been another alternative, I suppose, just to, because you were trying to heat the ground enough to do concrete.
I mean, we'd hope not to have to do that at all. In a normal winter, we probably wouldn't have.
Yeah,
If we
right.
hadn't encountered some of these delays, the work could have been done in the
Yeah,
fall.
crazy, yeah.
Just one thing piled onto another. But yes, once these projects are up and running, once you see a trailer on site, once you see heavy earth moving equipment on site, the idling time
You don't
of
wanna
that
wait
is more
until the thaw
expensive than
comes.
paying to come in and in this case, thaw the ground. So,
Exactly.
and that's why in our discussions with our partners, we're encouraging them, hey, stopping the project will
You don't wanna
benefit
do that,
anybody,
yeah.
especially the patrons who are waiting for the library.
Yeah,
and the
there's already
apartments.
been so many delays.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Butts?
Yes.
Ms. Shakari?
Yes.
We have Exhibit 5, a resolution to authorize agreements and establish project budget for Popular Department Refresh Project. Whereas in honor of the 100th anniversary of the main library and in order to better serve the evolving needs of the public, the Executive Director CEO has tasked the Chief Operating Officer and his team with reimagining and refreshing the Popular Department in Maine in order to make it a more inviting, comfortable, attractive, and versatile space. And whereas the library received quotes from various contractors for painting and carpet installation and from vendors for the purchase of new furniture, fixtures, and equipment, which are attached in this resolution. Based on the quotes received, the library estimates that the Popular Department Refresh Project will cost a total of $640,435.61. And whereas in order to accommodate unforeseen changes and additions to the project that may arise, the Chief Operating Officer recommends that this board authorize the library to enter in amendments to any of the contracts necessitated by this resolution, provided the sum of all such amendments does not exceed $51,234.85, representing 8% of the total estimated project costs, thus setting the maximum project cost of the project to an amount not to be exceeded of $691,670.46. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of the Library Trustees approves the total project budget for the Popular Department Refresh Project as set forth in Exhibit A to this resolution, which expenditures shall be charged to the Building and Repair Fund 401, and authorizes the Executive Director, CEO, or his designee to move forward in taking the steps necessary to complete the project and to execute such instruments or documents as may be necessary and appropriate to effectuate the terms of this resolution, including those in excess of the threshold set by the board on September 21st, 2023, currently $79,568, and which are payable from the project budget established herein, and be it further resolved that the Board of the Library Trustees authorizes the Executive Director, CEO, or his designee to amend the agreement authorized by this resolution, provided the total cost of all such amendments does not exceed $51,234.85, which amount shall be charged to the Building and Repair Fund 401. Yes.
So this one's a little more fun. So walking the building with the director just about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, talked about enhancing the main campus. When the FMP was kicked off in 2019, we envisioned 2 groups of projects over 10 years, at which point we would turn our attention to the main campus. We now know that the FMP and the branches is going to take longer. There's group 2 and now group 3. And so we were looking for some opportunities to freshen up Maine while we're waiting for the FMP to eventually get here. So this is a good opportunity, one of the more well-used spaces, and to kind of convert it to some of the design approaches we're trying to achieve within the FMP, of reconfigurability, flexibility, brightening spaces, bringing it up to the furniture standards and shelving standards that we've used in the FMP branches many of you have visited. So the costs are broken down: flooring, painting, furniture, shelving, service desks, meeting room installation. Just another word on that. So we're going to have 2 kind of glass box reservable meeting spaces in the southwest corner of Maine. So to the left, right on Superior Avenue as you come in. These are the former housing court spaces that were at Glenville branch. You may remember approving that some years ago before we even knew we were going to get the Mandel grant to do the Glenville renovations. Those are demountable partitions, so they were essentially Lego bricks. Put them in storage, waited for a good opportunity. Once Glenville went, they didn't fit into the scope of the Glenville project, but I'm happy that we're able to reuse them now. We did need to add some extra Lego bricks, so to speak, because in Glenville they're built against the wall. Here they're going to be built freestanding. So appreciate everyone on the project team and the public services team in Maine who's been working on this over time, and happy to answer any questions about what we're hoping to do.
Just curious, because I know I had learned from Jennifer about this coming up, which is exciting. What is the timeline, and then how, Jennifer, if you want to come, I'm just curious how your experience has been in like shaping what this will look like when it's completed.
Come on up, Jimba.
I know I put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Hi, everyone. The process so far has been awesome. It has been collaborative with Kath and Jean and Summer and John, as well as my team. They came in with 3 gigantic Post-it notes, what they want to see in the space, what they want customers to experience in the space, and they really have taken that to heart. If you go in our workroom, there's a blueprint where we've all kind of added Post-it notes of things we'd like to see. But essentially a welcoming space. If you stand in that gorgeous lobby in front of Brett Hall and you look to your left and right, you see material. You don't see our friendly faces. Once we opened up the doors from Brett Hall going east and west, we see a ton more people. So that speaks to, my team and how hard they work to engage the public. So more seating for people to kind of hang out, electrical work so people can work remotely in the gorgeous North Reading Room. So super excited.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think that the refresh is definitely needed. I appreciate also the opening whereas in honor of the 100th anniversary of Maine. So the budget makes sense for the refresh that's needed, but there's no sort of nod to paying attention to some historical needs that the building has and honoring that. Because I think that's one reason why people do want to come in and they love Brett Hall. So can we integrate into this budget, ensuring that we're respecting the history of the space in terms of colors and, get brighter lights, get good seating, but also honor the history.
So we few of those things. So short answer, I think, is yes. We haven't made final paint color selections. We're going to bring a design board to the director this week, assuming the contracts are approved. But it is our goal to both refresh it and to honor the historic nature of the architecture. It's always a tricky thing. We've seen that in many of the facilities master plan projects, and going back before my arrival at CPL to South Branch, now to buildings like Lorraine, Jefferson. These are 100-year-old historic buildings that we want to be modernized and yet still respect the existing architecture. We are taking the opportunity, the property management team, to relamp the spaces as they're under renovation. So we'll be doing that part of the work in-house.
Okay.
The color selection will be up to the director. The furniture selections are very consistent with what we've done at the FMP, which I think has been pretty successful. If I don't, not to pat myself on the back or the team on the back, but I think we've done a pretty good job blending historic architecture with modern design.
Yeah.
But is there anything specific that you're hoping to see?
Well,
Trustee Sherry?
I think, you know, FMP at like Glenville is not totally applicable to some improvements that are needed at Maine, right? And Maine is our jewel of our entire system. So I just want to make sure we're very carefully contemplating that and making sure that there's some deferred maintenance taken care of too with, you know, the beautiful murals or trim work that need to get fixed, so.
And I have a quick question, so you could probably answer both at the same time. My one concern is we are at Maine and asbestos is in those walls, because we all know that there is. What are we gonna do to ensure it's not disturbed?
We're just painting, we're going over the surface.
Okay,
paint.
I'm just making sure, I'm gonna ask that question,
We're not getting into.
especially like when you said what happened at South.
No, we're not tearing anything apart.
Okay, it's just, everything's gonna be left in, okay, I'm just making sure how you mentioned South, we had a big issue there and yeah, we ran into a lot of problems.
South, we were tearing down plaster ceilings, replacing it, getting into walls to do
Yeah.
HVAC work, none of that's associated.
Okay, just, thank you.
I just wanted to give you an example, Trustee Shakarian, of how we're thinking about that. You know, there are those beautiful 12-foot long library tables in the North Reading Room.
Yeah.
And some of them have the brass lamps, which are gorgeous, but they're not plugged in because there's no floor boxes.
Oh, well, yeah, that would be helpful.
So what we're going to do is use under carpet wiring, so we don't have to trench anything. We'll be able to plug in those tables and then also have the thread system, which we have in our branches, right there by the table. So folks who want to plug in their laptop or their phone will have the ability to charge. So I love it because it's using those iconic historic pieces and giving people the chance to do what they need to do today to use the library effectively. So that's just my favorite example of what we've been able to tie together there.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
I think what Trustee Shakari was alluding to and what I've heard is that there's a kind of a split. There are folks who would like a little brighter, more modern color being used, and then there are folks who want really the more historic facility, what has been our color palette for Maine, right? And that is right. I think what Trustee Shakarian is saying is she votes for the traditional model, right? She would like us to know that she's voting for the traditional
And
model.
I know Tom Corger's not here. I think he'd agree with me.
The colors of paint, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, the existing colors, I don't think are the original colors, so the space has been painted over time.
Well, that's exactly where I'm going with honoring the history and making
Mhm.
sure we're doing that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And a second,
Second.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Butts?
Yes.
And Ms. Shakarian?
Yes.
We are at Exhibit 6, Second Amendment to the Year 2026 Appropriation. Whereas Ohio Revised Code Section 5705.40 provides for the amendment of an appropriation measure when necessary, and whereas the aggregate of all appropriation classifications does not exceed the total amount submitted to the Cuyahoga County Budget Commission, now therefore be it resolved that the sums indicated on the attached second year amendment to the year 2026 appropriation schedule be approved. So moved.
Second. Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Carrie feels lonely. She hasn't had to say anything so
I'll give you
far.
a description of, in our special revenue funds, we have a net decrease of just over $12,000. We'll be increasing our appropriation in the MICOM fund for the starting point grant of $47,986. We're decreasing appropriation in the first fund by $60,000 by
a decrease in funding from the Cleveland Public Library Foundation that we will not be receiving this year. And then we are appropriating in our building and repair fund the $1.5 million that the board transferred over last month for the property management's calendar year 2026 budget, which the popular refresh will be paid out of. And also the Walz $500,000 budget increase.
Mhm. Thank you.
Did we do a second?
We had the second, but no vote.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Butts?
Yes.
Ms. Shakarian?
Yes.
And that concludes the Finance Committee report, and all of these exhibits will be for a second reading to be approved by the full board on Thursday.
We're now going to move into the Human Resource Committee report. Trustee Shakarian?
It is my pleasure to introduce Terry Ford, our Director of People and Organizational Effectiveness. Terry Ford, welcome. I'm going to read a bit of your bio for our audience. Terry Ford is a transformational leader and leadership and culture strategist who helps organizations move from functional to flourishing. She is known for creating cultures where people feel seen, leaders act with purpose, and teams align around what truly matters. She is a proud Ohio native, alumna of the Ohio State University. She earned her Master of Science in Positive Organizational Development and Change from Case Western's Weatherhead School, where she focused on cultivating human-centered workplaces that nurture resilience, authenticity, and meaningful growth. Welcome, Terry. Please introduce yourself more.
I don't know much more to say to that, but thank you. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Terry Ford. I've had a long history and experience working with people, working with growth and opportunities within organizations. So I am happy to be part of this organization. So many great things have already occurred here since I've been here, just learning so much about the vastness of the library, which is one. Meeting all the great people and staff has been another, but I'm very happy to lend my support, lend my knowledge, work with my team to help grow the library. And as I focus on a lot of the strategic goals that our Director Felton Thomas has laid out, is really making the library the destination for employment in the city of Cleveland. So see a lot of opportunity for that. It should be already, but that is where we are putting our focus.
Wonderful. We're so thrilled to have you
Thank
here.
Thank you. Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and I introduce the regular employment report, Exhibit 7, detailing the new hires, transfers, terminations, resignations, and retirements. So moved.
A second?
Ms. Shakarian?
Yes.
Ms. Butts?
Yes.
And Ms. Rashid?
Yes.
And then we hope to present a retirement recognition citation at the full board meeting. A citation has been issued for the following staff members on the occasion of their retirement: Marcy Williams, Public Services Manager for 32 years at our Huff branch, as of February 28th, her retirement date. Be it resolved that the citation for the above staff member presented by the Board of Trustees in appreciation of their faithful and dedicated service given to the library be recorded in the minutes of this meeting, and be it further resolved that the citation be sent to them forthwith if they are not present at this meeting of the Board of Trustees. So moved. Do I have a second?
Ms. Shakarian?
Yes.
Ms. Butts?
Yes.
And Ms. Rashid?
Yes.
And that concludes the Human Resources Committee.
And Marcy should be here. on
I hope
Thursday.
so.
Yeah.
Yay. At this time, we're going to move into the community service report. Trustee Parker, please.
I believe this is for informational purposes only, since there is no quorum for the Community Services Committee. But there is a resolution to revise policy on use of Cleveland Public Library social media sites. Whereas the social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, X, YouTube, and Instagram offer the Cleveland Public Library opportunities to interact with current and potential library users. And whereas in order to keep pace with the changing social media and legal landscapes, the library administration has made minor updates to the existing policy on the use of Cleveland Public Library's social media sites, and recommends that the policy be revisited on a regular basis to ensure compliance with evolving laws. Now therefore be it that the Board of Library Trustees hereby adopts the revised and retitled policy on use of Cleveland Public Library social media platforms as attached to be effective February 20th, 2026, and directs that the library management display the revised policy in the appropriate section on the library's public website. Yes.
Thank you, Trustee Parker.
Yes.
So the resolution before you today is, as Trustee Parker said, a resolution to update and modernize the existing policy on use of Cleveland Public Library's social media sites, retitled to reflect social media platforms, and generally trying to modernize what is essentially a policy from 2011, last updated in 2022, which in social media time is really quite a long time. So aside from retitling it and a few stylistic changes, what's largely been changed in the new policy is to give patrons a better idea of what kind of conduct is considered acceptable versus what is unacceptable. So you'll see in the last section of the policy itself, we've added some language concerning off-topic discussions, concerning commercial or advertisement type discussions, postings that contain threatening or racist language, and postings that discuss or encourage illegal activity. Those are things that weren't as explicitly called out in the previous draft. That's been in place for the last 2 years, 3 years now. And this is an attempt to tighten that up a bit, which, in addition to giving everybody notice of what's acceptable and unacceptable, will serve to protect the library a little bit more in the event that somebody were to make a First Amendment claim, were we to take down a comment we thought was unbecoming of the policy.
I appreciate this so much because it actually was at the ALA conference last year, and I'm grateful as a board member that I got to attend to represent the library. Some of the questions I came back with from understanding what some of the evolving case law is looking like in the last year and a half, and I presented that to Brian, and that led then to some of these updates for this policy. And so I very much appreciate you taking the learnings we had from that conference and really to underscore, and I'll do it for the minutes today and also the minutes on Thursday, that this is a limited purpose public forum, and there are different First Amendment rights that then follow through that. So I appreciate the work you did, Brian, very much.
Thank you. I can't take all the credit. Legal Officer Seth Bostrom was instrumental in this.
Thank you to Seth too. Yes, yes.
I just had a question more around, and this might not really be for you, Brian, but and just especially with this being updated, which is I think also coming at a really critical time where this is more necessary to explicitly state. Is there like one single person who manages the social media postings? Is it like multiple staff, or is it different staff based on the platform? And then, you know, how do we, I guess, too, if it's one or multiple people, make sure that, because I know sometimes too often deleting comments leads to, if that person notices it reoccurring in other forms or direct messaging or threat, like what, do we have also protections if it were to lead into like private messaging the library directly or sending anything further? Like, do we have those types of like guardrails and are thought of if it like is a continuous nature? Or like goes to multiple platforms? Like I wasn't sure if it's one person overseeing all platform posts.
Well, as far as private messaging, that's actually something that hadn't been considered. So if there were to become, say, an issue where somebody is persistently responding with some of the content that's not allowed by this policy, I think that would actually fall under the patron code of conduct as some form of, say, harassment, for instance, of a library staff member. As far as the individuals who are responsible for for implementing this policy on a day-to-day basis. Tana is much better suited to answer those questions since it's her staff who do that.
So to answer your question, there's multiple people who are posting on behalf of the library, and not just on the library channels, but also there's some adjacent channels too. So it's essentially members of the marketing team are the ones who are doing the most of the posting. We try not to take things down, and we also don't try to, we don't do a lot of direct messaging with people in that way.
I know sometimes in the age of social media where if someone notices their comment, I think especially too if they're upset with the content or event that the library is hosting, they could find like multiple mediums to like show their disapproval of what the library may be doing. And I know that could be like such a big task to follow, and it's not bulletproof, that people, we can't control what people are doing, but also to make sure like people feel safe, because I don't know, sometimes things can escalate.
That's a great point, Trustee Rashid, in the sense of we haven't had anything like this happen before, and because of that, we generally haven't reacted to it. But there are folks who are seen as a spokesperson for the library, and a lot of things, like John Skirdick, who has an important factor. So if somebody posted something, they may go and then try to attack John. And what is our responsibility on making sure that we're dealing with a patron who may want to just go to a personal staff member and then attack them on their thing? Those are things we have to
And I
consider.
think that would fall under the code of conduct and also the social media policy, so we would be able to take it down. And it's good to have those guidelines for our staff to be able to do that. And I think also many times the public will also self-correct in a way. You will see a lot of people come to the defense of the organization and tell the people who are disparaging how well they like the library.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it has happened, but that has been my experience.
And we do also have a staff-facing social media policy, so that apply to things that somebody might post as a staff member on their own, or if they are doing it perhaps in the capacity of a library employee. And the Human Resources Manual also has a provision on what's called third-party harassment. So if there ever were an instance like Director Thomas said, or somebody is messaging John Skirdick, and this is becoming problematic, that's addressed through different avenues.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Thank you.
I think that would be it for the.
I think we're gonna have the update.
We have to, excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. No vote. I think the update from the strategic plan, Alice,
Yes.
part of that.
So good afternoon. I would like to provide an update about the organization's strategic plan refresh. Before I begin, I would like to thank fellow committee members, Maritza and Jasmine Fryer, and maybe Maritza will add something at the end since Jasmine's not here. Just thank you for your participation and contribution. And Carol, is it Hubler from Finance and Accounting and the Legal Department for your support of the RFP process. And special thanks to Nancy Moxgren, Knowledge Manager, and Tana Peckham, Chief Strategy Officer, for staffing our committee and leading the effort. And of course, thank you, Director Thomas, for leadership and vision on this. So as you might recall, our strategic plan was due for a refresh, and this past fall, we issued an RFP for a vendor to facilitate our process. The committee met in early January to select our partner, and during the call, Director Thomas expressed a desire to shift the scope of the strategic refresh. The director feels that the organization is comfortable with CPL's foundational documents and strategic priorities, but he wanted to see more support for the staff in turning strategy into action. So at the committee's request, Tana and Nancy had follow-up calls with the lowest two bidders regarding the shift in focus. And after reviewing their recap and recommendation, the committee has selected the Sort Soul Group as our partner. They were not the lowest bidder, but we felt they had the best experience and expertise to support the organization's needs. They were founded in 2015. The Sword Soul Group is a Chicago-based LGBT business enterprise, and they are structured as a flock of talent who deliver thoughtful projects on time and on budget. The next step is to negotiate a follow scope of work with the Soul Sword Group to put a contract in place. We do not have a resolution to present to you today because the fee's below the minimum threshold. The committee, however, felt it was important to update our colleagues on our progress. And I open the floor to questions and ask Maritza if you have anything to add, I guess.
I don't at this time, but I don't know if you want to give a brief update today or Thursday about the whole scope of what we're going to be doing, or? Yeah, do you have time today to do that, or just to let everyone know where we're at and what is going to take place briefly?
So as Trustee Walz mentioned, the refresh isn't going to be a traditional strategic plan. We're going to hold on to our mission, our vision, and our values. We're just going to do some gut checking around the strategic priorities, but really what the group is, the agency is going to help us with is really looking at how do you take those strategic priorities and action and turn them into action. So looking at the initiatives, looking at developing action plans around those.
I'm so excited for this to get started. When are they looking to begin, Tana?
We just have to finalize the scope of work with them.
Okay.
With this, will this be our first time working with this consultant?
Yes.
Mhm.
It's exciting.
I think that'll be all for today. There's no other issues or concerns. I call this meeting adjourned.